This episode of Budget MTG Decks is sponsored by TCGPLAYER, the best place to buy your cards in the US. Welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All the cards you see in our videos are $1 or less, with exception of the Commander cards. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when a new video comes out. Hi and welcome to another episode of Budget MTG Decks. I'm David and today we're going to be looking at another fun and effective commander you can build without breaking the bank. And today we're tackling an awesome sacrifice commander in the form of Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. Yawgmoths cost 2 and 2 black, so for 4 mana we get a 2/4 legendary human cleric. He has protection from humans. Additionally, we can pay 1 life and sacrifice another creature to put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature and draw a card. Additionally, we can pay 2 black, discard a card, and then proliferate, which means you get to choose any number of target permanents and or players and then give them another counter of each kind already there. Remember that this does not target. So Yawgmoth, in this case, we're going to be building it around its first ability, which is the pay 1 life and sacrifice another creature. And then we're going to be using that to draw cards and as removal as well. So let's have a look at the strategy of this deck. The strategy of this deck is going to be play lots of expendable creatures, either creatures that come back or tokens that we don't mind sacrificing. We're going to be playing drainers as well, which means that whenever stuff of ours dies, our opponents are going to be losing life. We're going to be gaining life so that we can slowly kill them without using combat if necessary. And finally, we're going to be using the sacrifice outlet of the commander to draw cards, drain, and also to kill threats with the -1/-1 counters. The deck is also pretty affordable outside of the commander itself. The commander costs $20.15. However, the rest of the deck only costs $26.90, which means that the deck total comes into below $50. Although, as you can see, a lot of the cost comes from this very expensive but really awesome commander. Now let's have a look at the synergy cards first. We divided the synergy cards into sack targets, tokens, drainers, and the cards that have synergy with counters, -1/-1 counters to be specific. All right, let's get started with the sack targets. We're going to start with Butcher Ghoul, Evernight Shade, and Sightless Ghoul. Now, all these cards are here for one reason, and that is the fact that they have the ability called Undying. Undying states that when this creature dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, we're going to return it to the battlefield under our control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Now, what's very important to remember is that with our commander's ability, we can put -1/-1 counters on these creatures, and if they already have a +1/+1 counter on them, due to state-based actions, these two counters will cancel each other out and both will be removed, which means that if, of course, we have a Butcher Ghoul, for example, and should it die, it's going to come back with a +1/+1 counter, we can put a -1/-1 counter on it, and then it's going to be as if it was brand new again, and it can die and it can come back again. 2 of these Undying cards can loop together with each other in order for us to draw all the cards that we want. Unfortunately, of course, it will cost us 1 life, which means that we probably want to have something which allows us to gain life as well to make sure that we don't die to that. Then we have a Reassembling Skeleton, a Brood of Cockroaches, and Endless Cockroaches. These cards cannot be looped because we need to pay to get them back. However, we can play them every single turn again, often multiple times, which means that it is a nice little way to have a recurring sack outlet, which we can keep on using every single turn. Then we have Weaponcraft Enthusiast, Sling Gang Lieutenant, and Marsh Flitter. These are the token cards. These cards come in with 2 tokens additionally, and these are great targets to be able to, to sacrifice those tokens or to just be attacking and doing a little bit of damage. Then we have Sengir Autocrat and Abhorrent Overlord. These are a little bit different. Sengir Autocrat comes in with 3 tokens, so a little bit more than the cards before that. However, should this card be removed, the serve tokens also are going to be exiled, so they're going to be gone. So you want to make sure this one doesn't get removed, but it is a great target to reanimate because those serve tokens are fun to sack for cards. And Abhorrent Overlord, it's got Devotion to Black, which means when it comes here, we're going to count the black pips on the permanents that we have on the table. As you can see, Abhorrent Overlord already has 2 black mana symbols, which means that it would just be by itself, it would give us 2 harpies. However, this, with our commander, would give us 4. We've probably got some other stuff, so we're going to get upwards of 8 or 6 harpy tokens with this card, which means it's going to be a lot of nice little tokens. Then we have some token generators, which are recurable. Genesis Chamber, a Crowan Horse, and Endrick Sire Master Breeder. Genesis Chamber can also go infinite with one of our Undying creatures, as we can put a token on, we can put a -1/-1 counter on one of the tokens. And then, of course, then the other creature will come back in, and we can loop the -1/-1 tokens from the Undying creature onto the tokens, because every time the Undying creature comes back in, we're going to be creating another 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. A Crowan Horse comes in under control of our opponent, and we're going to be getting very soon a 1/1 soldier. Our opponents also will get that, except for the one who owns the Crowan Horse, but it's still nice to every single turn have a little bit of a disposable body. And Endrick Sire, as long as we can keep on casting creature spells, we're going to be getting more and more thralls. However, if we control several more thralls, we're going to have to sacrifice Endrick Sire. We don't want that, which means that every time we run a risk of having too many of these creatures, we're just going to sack them to our commander to make sure Endrick Sire stays on the battlefield. And the last one of the token creators is Thopter Assembly. Comes in, it's a 5/5 flyer. But at the beginning of our upkeep, if we still had it, so if it's gone around the table and nobody's removed it, we're going to pop it back into our hand, and we're going to create 5 1/1 Thopter creature tokens with flying. We use them to attack, and we use them to sack them, and then once we've sacked all of them, it's fair game again to play Thopter Assembly, because then we can bounce it back to our hand again and get more. Then we move on to the Drainer cards. We've got Zulaport Cutthroat and Vindictive Vampire. It's important that both of these cards check out whenever another creature dies, mostly. I mean, Zulaport Cutthroat also cuts itself, but in principle, whenever another creature that we control dies, we're going to have each opponent lose a life, and we're going to be gaining life. So this is only our creatures dying, but we make everybody lose life and we gain life. Then we have Death Creator and Falconwrath Noble. This counts any creature dying, so not only ours, but also anybody else's creature dying. Death Creator only gains us life, but this is still quite nice because it neutralizes the downside of our commander. And Falconwrath Noble also deals 1 damage and gains us 1 life, but it only does it to target player. So unlike the Zulaport Cutthroat and Vindictive Vampire, it doesn't do it to all players. And finally, the Drainer Extraordinaire, Grey Merchant of Asphodel. This thing comes in, once again, Devotion to Black, counts the pips in there, 6, 8, it's going to be doing that much damage to each opponent, and then we're going to be getting all the life that our opponents lost, which means it's going to be a massive life swing. This is a great card to play, sack, get out of the graveyard, play again, do it a couple of times, everybody's dead. Wonderful. And then we move on to the cards that have synergy with -1/-1 counters, and that is Nest of Scarabs, Archfiend of Ifnir, and Carnifex Demon. Nest of Scarabs states that whenever you put 1 or more 1/1 counters on a creature, we're going to put that many 1/1 black insect creature tokens onto the battlefield. Now again, with one of those Undying creatures and their commander, this can go infinite, as you can bounce the -1/-1 counters from the Undying creature onto the token, because every time we put a -1/-1 counter on the Undying creature, we're going to get a token, which of course can take another -1/-1 counter, and then we can sacrifice the Undying creature again to loop it. Archfiend of Ifnir, really nice, because whenever we discard another card, we can put a -1/-1 counter on each creature our opponents control. And of course, the ability we're not really focusing on very much with this commander is the fact to pay 2 black and discard a card in order to proliferate. But in this case, it works really, really nicely, so that is awesome, as we always have an ability to do that with our commander out. And Carnifex Demon comes in with 2 -1/-1 counters on it, and we can remove 1 by paying a black to put a -1/-1 counter on each other creature. This includes our creatures, but this is essentially like a board wipe, and using the Proliferate ability, we can make sure that we always have enough -1/-1 counters on Carnifex Demon. That is it for the synergy cards. Let's have a look at the protection cards. We only have 3 cards to protect our commander, and that is Supernatural Stamina, Undying Evil, and Dark Privilege. Supernatural Stamina gives our commander basically the ability to come back from the dead once it's been killed, instant speed. Undying Evil, essentially the same thing. If it dies, it's going to come back to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. And Dark Privilege is a nice enchantment to put on our commander, and as we have so many disposable creatures, we can just use those creatures to regenerate our commander should somebody want to remove it. That is it for the protection cards. Let's have a look at the control cards. Even though our commander already has a very nice removal package built in with the -1/-1 counters, sometimes you just need to kill a lot bigger stuff or stuff of other nature, so that's why we still have some control cards in the form of creature, non-creature, and board wipe cards. We're going to start with the creature removal spells, and that is Defile, Tragic Slip, and Bile Blight. Defile is going to give a creature -1/-1 until the end of turn for each swamp we control, so that's going to kill anything, including indestructible stuff. Tragic Slip is very similar. Target creature is going to get -13, -13. If a creature died this turn, that's how you want to use this card. It's going to kill everything as well for single black. Amazing. And Bile Blight costs 2 black, and it's going to give a creature and other creatures with the same name as that creature -3/-3 till the end of turn. This is great against those token players. We can just hit everything pretty much. Then we have Font of Agony's Transmogrifying Wand and Phyrexian Plague Lord. Font of Agony states that whenever you pay life, you put that many blood counters on Font of Agony's, and we can pay 2 mana and remove 4 counters to destroy target creature. We can do this repeatedly, and as we're paying life with our commander's first ability, we will be able to destroy a lot of stuff with Font of Agonies. And Transmogrifying Wand is beautiful, comes in with 3 charge counters on it, but every time we pay 1 mana, tap it, and remove a charge counter, we're going to destroy target creature, and they get a 2/4 Ox in return as a token. We can't do this instant speed, but every single turn being able to discard a card, proliferate, and then tap this thing and kill something. We don't care that people have 2/4s. They can have a whole army of 2/4s. Even our commander can stop 2/4s as it's a 2/4 itself without any problem. Getting rid of their best stuff every single turn is absolutely beautiful. Then we have Phyrexian Plague Lord. This is a 4/4, and what's really nice about this card is that we can sacrifice a creature, and target creature gets -1/-1 till the end of turn. So essentially, it is kind of like a commander light. We can use that as an alternative to our commander, as it also uses those warm bodies we've got as removal. And of course, it can also tap and sacrifice itself to give a creature -4/-4 to the end of turn. Then we have a Fleshbag Marauder, Plague Crafter, and a Virtuous Maneuver. All 3 of these cards make our opponents sacrifice something. The great thing is that Plague Crafter makes sure that if they don't have a creature or planeswalker to sacrifice, they're going to have to discard a card. And Virtuous Maneuver is also really nice because instead of our opponents all having to sacrifice a creature, we also get to return a creature card from our graveyard back to our hand. Really nice. Then we move on to the non-creature removal. The only card we have here is Agent of Erebos. Comes in, or whenever an enchantment comes into the battlefield under our control, we're going to exile all cards from target player graveyard. We like to use our graveyard. Let's make sure that our opponents do not benefit from anything like that. And then we move on to the board wipe cards. We've got Mutilate, Knight Incarnate, and Demon of Dark Schemes. Mutilate just gives all creatures -1/-1 until the end of turn for each swamp we control. We're playing tons of swamps, so we're going to be able to kill everything. Yes, this will probably also kill our commander, but we sometimes play this in desperate times when we gotta kill absolutely everything, and then this does the trick. Knight Incarnate, whenever it leaves the battlefield, we're going to give all creatures -3/-3 till the end of turn. Really nice, of course. Our commander will not get killed by this. And Demon of Dark Schemes, when it enters the battlefield, is going to give all creatures -2/-2 until the end of turn. Once again, does not kill our commander. Really nice. It's a 5/5 flyer, which is not to be underestimated. And whenever a creature dies, we're going to get 1 energy counter, and we can use 4 of those energy counters and paying 3 to return target creature card from a graveyard back to the battlefield under our control tapped. Now this is not just from our graveyard, but any graveyard, so that is absolutely brutal. That is it for the control cards. Let's have a look at the card advantage cards. Now our commander already has a great draw package built right in, but sometimes you need to be able to do either some draw or you need something else. In that case, we divided the cards into draw and recursion cards. The first of the draw cards is Wretched Confluence and Promise of Power. Wretched Confluence, yes, we can draw a card and lose a life. Give a target creature -2/-2 till the end of turn, or return target creature card from a graveyard to our hand, and we can choose 3 of these, any of these more than once. So yes, we could draw 3 cards and lose 3 life, but we can also return stuff from our graveyard and use it as removal. So it really is such a versatile card in all points of the game. Promise of Power, also very versatile. Yes, we can pay 5 mana to draw 5 cards and lose 5 life, which is absolutely phenomenal. But if your hand is full, you don't really need that much. You know what? You can also just play the second ability, which is put an XX black demon creature token with flying onto the battlefield, where X is the number of cards in your hand as the token enters the battlefield. So if you got a lot of cards, we can get a very, very big flyer as well. Then we have Argyle's Bloodfast and Underworld Connections. Argyle's Bloodfast, pay 2 mana, pay 2 life, draw a card. Underworld Connections essentially is pay 1 life, pay 1 mana, and draw a card. Why? Because we have to enchant a land and we have to tap that land in order to make it work. So actually kind of a better deal than Argyle's Bloodfast. Both enchantments still very strong, allows us to draw cards for very cheap. Then we have a Smothering Abomination and Kothofed Soul Hoarder. Smothering Abomination is a 4/3. It states that at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice a creature. That doesn't matter too much. We got disposable creatures. We're playing lots of tokens, so that's fine. And it also states that whenever you sacrifice a creature, we draw a card. And of course, Yawgmoth's ability sacrifices a creature, which means we're going to be drawing a card for every creature we sacrifice with either this one or with Yawgmoth. Kothofed, very cool 6/6 flyer, and it states that whenever a permanent owned by another player is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose life. This is not only great when our opponents are killing each other's stuff, but of course, Yawgmoth is going to be using its ability to put -1/-1 counters on utility, small utility creatures, killing them, and then we're going to be drawing cards for that as well. Up next, we have Soul Exchange and No Rest for the Wicked. Soul Exchange for measly 2 mana. We're going to sacrifice a creature, exile it, and then return another creature from our graveyard back to the battlefield. Super cheap for only 2 mana. And No Rest for the Wicked is very nice as it comes in early. We just pop it down. We don't have to worry about it. And then should somebody do a board wipe with all our valuable creatures out there, we can sacrifice it and return all those creatures back to our hand so we can recast them again either that turn or another turn. Then we have Undertaker and Whisper Blood Liturgist. Undertaker allows us to have all those dead cards in our hand that we don't really want to use, maybe extra swamps where we're mana flooded, or maybe a really expensive card that we're not going to be playing for a long time. We can just pay a black, tap and discard it, and then return a creature card from our graveyard back to our hand. And with Whisper, we're going to be tapping it and sacrificing 2 creatures, and then return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. As we saw already, all of our token producers, all of them produce at least 2 tokens when they come in. So this is an excellent target to be able to sacrifice the tokens. I mean, we can sacrifice the original creature to Yawgmoth, and then sacrifice the tokens to Whisper to return the token generator back onto the battlefield. And then we have the last of the recursion cards, Palace Siege and Dawn of the Dead. Both of these cards do essentially the same thing. Palace Siege, at our upkeep, we're going to be able to return a creature card from our graveyard back to our hand, and Dawn of the Dead is going to cost us a life, but it's going to return that creature onto the battlefield straight, so we don't need to cast it anymore. It goes straight from the graveyard to the battlefield. However, and it also gains haste, which is very nice. However, we do need to exile it at the end of the turn, which means that before the end of our turn, we do need to sacrifice it again with an ability such as Yawgmoth's ability to make sure that it does not get exiled. That is it for the card advantage cards. Let's have a look at the ramp spells. The ramp spells are pretty much all mana rocks with the exception of these first 2 cards. We've got Sphere of Suns and Pitiless Plunderer. Sphere of Suns comes in with 3 counters on it, and we can tap it and remove a counter to add a mana of any color. Now, we can do this 3 times, and early on in the game, it is pretty much all we're going to need. However, we can use Yawgmoth's Proliferate ability to put more counters on it should we need that. And Pitiless Plunderer makes sure that whenever another creature we control dies, we're going to create a treasure artifact, which we can sack for mana. Now, these very important to remember that it does not care if it's a token or a non-token creature, as long as it's a creature. So it does count our tokens, which means it's going to give us loads of mana when our tokens are dying as well. Then we move on to the mana rocks. Mind Stone, Prismatic Lens, and Fractured Power Stone all come in for 2 and all tap for colorless. Star Compass, Guardian Idol, and Laden Mirror all also come for 2 and tap for 1 mana. The Star Compass and the Laden Mirror can give us black mana, whereas the Guardian Idol can only give us colorless. And finally, we have Palladium Mare and Unstable Obelisk. Palladium Mare is a creature, but it can tap for 2 colorless, and Unstable Obelisks can only tap for a colorless, but very importantly, we can pay 7 and tap it and sacrifice it to destroy target permanent, and sometimes there are enchantments or artifacts on the battlefield which we have difficulty dealing with as black, and then Unstable Obelisk can save us. That is it for the ramp cards. Let's have a look at the lands. We divided the lands into 29 swamps and 9 non-basic lands. To start off with the non-basic lands, we've got Barren Moor and Polluted Mire. Both give us black, coming tapped, but we can cycle them. So if we're mana flooded, we can get rid of them and draw a card. Then we have Emergence Zone, Memorial to Folly, and Encroaching Waste. These are all lands that tap for mana. However, we can also sacrifice them to do various abilities. Emergence Zone we can sacrifice to cast spells with Flash this turn. We can sacrifice Memorial to Folly to return a creature card from our graveyard back to our hand. And we can sacrifice Encroaching Waste to destroy target non-basic land. Then we have Mage Ring Network, Detection Tower, and Rogue's Passage. Majoring Network comes in with counters, and we put more counters on it, and then later on we can remove a whole bunch of them to give us lots of mana, which works for us great with the Proliferate ability. Detection Tower allows us to remove hexproof from targets so that we can make sure that we can target our opponent's stuff with Yawgmoth's -1/-1 counters. And Rogue's Passage can make one of our creatures unblockable, which is nice when we have a big fat creature that we do not want to have blocked. Then finally, the last of the lands is Cabal Stronghold. It can tap for a colorless, but we can also tap it, pay 3 mana, and it gives us 1 black for each basic swamp we control. So once we have 5 or more swamps, then this thing really starts to give us more mana. That is it for the lands. Let's have a look at 2 example starting hands. In this first example hand, we've got a way to protect our commander through Undying Evil, and with Butcher Ghoul and Genesis Chamber, we can loop them infinitely, and we also make sure that Vindictive Vampire being on the battlefield means that our opponents will lose 1 life every time we do it, and we gain 1 life. In the next hand, we start off with some mana ramp, a cheap creature which gives us tokens, a creature that can get us that creature back onto the battlefield every single turn, and Smothering Abomination, which makes sure we'll also be drawing cards every time we sack the Weaponcraft Enthusiast or when we're sacking the creatures to the Whisper Blood Lethargist. So we're going to be drawing an incredible amount of cards. That is it for the starting hands. Let's have a look at some non-budget upgrades. As you can see over here, we've got some awesome cards that you can use to upgrade this deck, mostly in the form of stuff that we can sacrifice, works really well, or the effects that it gives us when we sacrifice those things. Remember, at the top is the card that's in the deck, and at the bottom is the card we suggest that you put in instead of the original card. Thank you very much for watching. I'm David, and this was Budget MTG Decks. Find all the cards discussed in this video in the description below. Also, show you're a fan of the channel by rocking this awesome Budget MTG Decks merchandise. This show was made possible by the support of our loyal patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/budgetmtgdecks and donate as little as $1 per month.